Todd Smith, better known as LL Cool J, has been active in the hip-hop scene since 1984. Yet somehow, with such a legendary catalog and memorable battles, LL Cool J's name does not come up quite as much as it should when mentioning the greats of hip-hop. One must wonder, why is that LL is considered one of the forgotten gods of hip-hop? In 1985, one of hip-hop's gods blessed the world with radio. Welcome to Thought Crimes. Once again, this is your boy Prince Solomon.
And this is your girl Sincere.
And we would like to go ahead and discuss LL Cool J. If you think about it, for him to have been in the game so long and the present and the legacy he's left, or he still has, that is, it's just interesting how he's not necessarily brought up as much as, at least I feel, he should have been.
He doesn't get the respect that he deserves, let's be real. This guy has like 6 classic hip-hop albums. We know that Kanye West's discography is dope, but LL Cool J's discography is just as dope. He has, what, is it 6 for Kanye West or 4?
Yeah, it's debatable.
It's debatable.
Debatable because when you start talking about, 808 and EMCEES and, around there, that's when people, they get caught.
I gotta say that 808 has to be without a doubt. But I know what
you know what I mean. I liked 808, but I even liked EMCEES. I liked EMCEES, okay? I did. And then the Pablo, to me, it was a nice album. So to be honest, I would say at least, if we want to be fair, he has
4. Because even we'll do it by critic standards. By critic standards, 808 was one of the most innovative hip hop albums. And then we go to the College Dropout and registration, late registration. So he has about 4 critic-wise,
I would say it's a little weird with 808. The only reason why I say that is because there were certain styles that had already been floating out there. And, it was just 808 was building on something that was existing. I think after that, if we go to somebody like a Drake, he definitely pulls heavily from that. So that was like, I would say, if anything, 808 was like a refreshing point for rap and hip hop.
Before we move on for this, I'll say one more thing on it.
Okay.
Because I know we want to focus on that a lot. I would say that I know other people were touching that style before, but no one did it like he did with 808.
No, that we agree. No, that's what I mean, though. I do want to make that clear about 808 because it's just one of those albums that it's a very strong album. It's a very strong album. But if you're talking about now classics, hands down, College Dropout, Late Registration, people liked the Graduation. I don't know about you. Did you enjoy the Graduation?
Graduation was enjoyable, but you can debate if it's a classic or not.
I actually like my Twisted Dark Beautiful Fantasy.
That's a classic.
I enjoyed that one way better than Graduation.
Yeah, that's why I said 4 for me. If I was going to do classic albums, it would have been Late Registration. Mm-hmm. It would have been College Dropout.
Okay, yeah, College.
Dark Twisted Fantasy. And 808s for me.
Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, I can see that. What did you think about Pablo?
Pablo was a solid album, but it wasn't a classic.
Right, okay.
But switching back over to
LL. Okay, and also to kind of touch on what you said, you brought up Kanye West, because people bring up Kanye West as far as the classic, he's like the A-Rod of classic, supposedly, right? Mm-hmm. But, I would even go a little bit further. I'd say, like, when you bring up, like, Rakim and the Daddy Kanes, LL's name doesn't come up.
And it should be because, no, I'm saying we're talking about discographies in hip-hop, and if we were to put that as a criteria for being top 10, not freestyles or all the other things, technically, LL Cool J should be around top 3. He has 6 classic albums.
Yeah, like, the man is heavily slept on, Let's jump it off with Radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Radio. Let's talk about Radio. It definitely has some jewels there.
It came out 1985, right?
Yeah, 1985. 1985. That is correct.
So what single would be something that you really, really like when it came to Radio? I know that a lot of people say, I can't live without my radio, which is definitely a dope-ass single. But, for me personally, I did think there was a lot of humor to Radio when you think of like singles like You Can't Dance, which was very, very funny.
It's very funny. He said, man, you can't dance. Who put you on the floor? For me, like, if you go back and you listen to it, of course, I Can't Live Without My Radio. I'd say Dangerous.
Dangerous is a dope track. Rock the Bells.
Rock the Bell, but I like the I Need a Beat remix.
I agree with you. I think that one was better.
Yeah.
And also, when we talk, I know it was some controversy, but it's bringing back to this day that people, LL said, I was the one who perfected rapping over 808 beats before anyone else. And if you look at his discography and his first 4 albums that were a classic, he has a case.
Well, that is correct. That's having to do with the minimalist style of Rick Rubin. And even on the back of the album, instead of saying produced by Rick Rubin, he's got reduced by Rick Rubin, because that was his style dealing with License to Ill, of course, Radio. It was that trifecta, and also Raising Hell, which was with Run DMC, and that was kind of giving Rick Rubin, that solidification in hip hop as a credible producer. So now going back to LL as far as that 808 statement, to be honest with you, if you listen to it and you compare it to albums from that era, they didn't have as much kick as that album.
Yes, I know we're talking about Radio, but I will have to say the first 4 albums of LL Cool J, it did have the 808 sound. I know it also had other things like rock and roll, a lot of rock and roll riffs, guitar riffs, they had hard ass beats, jazz instrumentals. But the first 4 albums was definitely knocking. It's very hard bass. So a lot of people, when he said that comment, a lot of people were shitting on him, and I was looking at it like, the fuck?
Well, but it's all about articulation with people, just in general. It really is. And the way it came off as, especially, with the whole thing about when he said it, I remember when he said it was during the time of, the South, when it was really turning up with a lot of hits. So they felt some type of way. But it's all about articulation. What he meant, he was talking about, let's say, even going back to that minimalist style of Rick Rubin. Run DMC was rapping over the 808s as well, but they were more like, they were kind of between the Sugar Hill Gang stuff, and they were just adding a little bit to the flow with the,
It's like you said, they were mostly the Sugar Hill type, but it had a little bit of how
the
LL
production,
rapping it.
The production was just a little cleaner.
And better rhyme scheme.
Right, and what LL was talking about was, he was the one to actually have a consistent flow over that 808.
No, none of that stuff.
Like this is a prep rally.
To the store.
Yeah.
He didn't have any of that.
My daddy said he was gonna get some milk. He ain't never come back. I'm selling drugs.
For Radio, I also want to give credit to another producer who basically was worked on it, was Jazzy J. He definitely put in a lot of work in Radio as well. And it was, Radio was a milestone. When you have, let's even talk about the style, the fashion. When you have LL Cool J with the Kango hat, and I know Run DMC was rocking it too. They were pioneers in fashion.
They didn't do it like LL.
Debatable, but I agree with you. I would say debatable for other people, because Run DMC style, was really popping. But I agree with you. I personally feel LL Cool J style was better.
Well, it's like, okay, we talking about the styles, and we just looking at it, going back 2020. Now, we didn't live the era. I know some people, they're gonna comment they lived the era, so
we do want to hear your guys,
we want to hear,
perspective, since your guys lived in that era.
But the thing is that Run DMC, they had the style, but instantly when you think of Run DMC, you think about the leather coats and the pants, the dark black pants, and the Adidas.
Yeah.
When you think of LL and you're talking about the young LL, that's immediately what you go to is the Kango hats and everything. So just the style and the way he carried himself, it was very fresh and had a lot of energy. All of them had a lot of energy. I really like the the styles as far as Run DMC and LL. We're talking about that golden era, and they were the beginning of the golden era. That's why it was called, it was a new wave, all right? Just like we had like the freshman double XL stuff, which there's a lot of trashy innovators that come out of that class, I'm gonna be honest with you. But when you look at it, and they were calling it the golden era because they were transitioning from guys that were caught between the Bada flow, and some of the cats were kind of even hitting it like James Brown every now and then, and also the Sugar Hill Gang. And then when you had the new cats come in like Run DMC, even the Beastie Boys, and of course LL Cool J, that was like the beginning of the golden era.
And like you said, when it comes to the energy on the tracks and the energy in the performance, Run DMC was definitely badass in that, but LL Cool J for me blew the house down. Like the way that he would engage with the crowd, how energetic he was, he'll just hop on anything. They really was like rock stars in a way, or he really was like a rock star in a way. And also having a genius like Rick Rubin and also Jazzy J producing the tracks, and how they added other genres and fused it in, that, you know, with the 808 beats was definitely amazing, and it actually add to it. And
Run DMC album, that was a part of that trilogy that Rick Rubin was on. That album always gives me energy.
Yes.
It gives me energy.
But you know what's also funny is it's like, you said this before when we was having a conversation off the air, when you said that when you look at Run DMC and when you look at LL Cool J, especially LL Cool J, how he was rapping on the 808 beats, it was like very positive energy. And when you look at drill music or even trap music, that takes it's like the reverse flash of that particular time, and how they manifested those 808 beats or that hard banging bass. And drill music does the same thing, trap music does the same thing, but it's the reverse flash. It's like, the evil brother.
Well, actually, to be fair, it was because they stepped away from the analog production, and that's why they like some of the vibe. When you listen to like the Rakim stuff, if you listen to like the older Outkast stuff, you know, it has a different feel. So if you listen to the Run DMC stuff, it does have a different feel. It gives you high octane energy, but it don't make you want to punch somebody.
Exactly. It's more like it's challenged channeled in a very positive way.
Right. And so what has happened, like if you talk about drill music, it switched to the digital, and then what's also happening is the frequency rate of these songs. It's turned all the way up. It's just fast. It's fast, and it kind of does something to you energetically, but it also makes you want to fight, because, you know, even the subject matter, if it's changed, like if you listen to the analog hip hop, you know, even up to like the 96, 95 era, you just chilling for the most part, you know, unless somebody was aggressive and they were blatantly saying in their lyrics, like Tupac, hit them up, where it actually makes you want to fight. But for the most part, that stuff like Run DMC and LL, like I'm Bad and all that makes you feel good. But another thing about the album itself, when it was released, the radio album itself, it sold 500,000 copies in its first month, eventually reaching 1 million copies by 1988. So it was released November 18th of 1985. And of course the singles with I Can't Live Without My Radio and Rock the Bells, it eventually reached 1.5 million in the U.S. sales. And, you know, it was just it was an achievement in hip-hop. It was definitely setting up a template as far as LL's career.
Yeah, and I have to say that, you know, and for the ladies, you know, for a lot of the ladies out there, he was like one of the first major heartthrobs of hip-hop.
Yeah, that is, in fact, that's his reputation, you know.
I actually, when you even think about it, you know, him being, you know, the ladies' man and whatnot, and how he appealed to women, it also led to the lineage of people that you eventually get like as Drake. Like Drake, although people feel he doesn't have the harder side of LL Cool J when it comes to how he's presented or his background, but he does have, he's still a part of that lineage of basically being the smooth guy in the room when it comes to women.
Well, you know, if you think about it though, especially with male singers, male entertainers, that really hasn't changed. What LL did, that's another thing that definitely distinguished him from Run DMC. Think about this. They looked to Run DMC as like the guys on the block. Like,
they were cool. They were cool guys on the block.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I'm sure women may have found him attractive in some sense, but they didn't look at him.
We're talking about universal sex appeal. But
LL was the other guy. You
exactly.
know, he was the other guy that, you know, they're like, oh, okay, that's hide your girl. You know what I'm saying? That's LL. You know what I'm saying? Even now, guys were like, hide your girl. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, definitely, radio has to be, it is a classic. In 1987, LL Cool J released Bigger and Deffer. And also for the album Bad, Bigger and Deffer, that was his second album, it was.
Yes, it definitely was LL Cool J's second album, and it was another classic. You know, everyone loved, of course, you know, tracks like I'm Bad, which basically was a badass track, and also the video was pretty dope as well. No, not even pretty dope.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want to talk about it, it was pretty revolutionary in hip-hop, that video.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to say. And the reason why I want to definitely talk about that video, because it always struck me at how weird and which way the culture has gone, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, today, it's common to celebrate the drug dealer. Mm-hmm. If you watch his video, even though he's talking about I'm bad,
he's a hero.
You watch the video, yeah. It's anti-drug. He's talking about, even in the video, it's like he's getting the CIA out of the community that are bringing drugs into the community. Like the video, like you stated, it's revolutionary.
Yeah, here you have a young brother, like you said, anti-drugs. Also anti the CIA trying to set up another black man, which is basically what he's understanding. And then on top of that, he goes out and save his girlfriend from, getting after she got kidnapped and saving her. So it was a dope album. It was kind of like visually, it was almost like you was watching an old school Brother Man. I know the comic book and stuff, but it was like, even though I know I'm Bad came before that, it's to me that's what comes into my mind every time I watch the video.
Well, that video right there, it definitely tells me, and it's like it's indicative of the consciousness, like black people, even in the arts, or because I'm sure back then they considered the youth in the hip hop, they were like the radical, right? Mm-hmm. But even if in their radicalness, right? They were still safe, and they were actually pro-black. Like if you look at the video, like I said, he's talking about the drugs in the community and all that. Like every time I see that video, that shit just blows my mind. That's what was the norm.
And he had the dichotomy. Like I know guys when they're around each other, they can be more explicit when it comes to sex and different things like that. And LL Cool J, it wasn't as if he ran away from that as well. Later down, when you go to Mrs. Smith, where we'll get to that later, but. He also was able to talk about love. I like my girl. I'm into women, and it wasn't an issue for him. He didn't feel weird about it, and I definitely like that about him, especially in this album as well.
One thing about Bad though, this was LL kind of branching more so into his, what he's been known for is the R&B territory as far as rap goes. Mm-hmm. Again, LL did perfect that, but towards the end of Radio. He had it was the last single he had on there that he was talking about love a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? But when he actually did this album here, he scored his first #1 R&B single, which was I Need Love.
And on top of that, I just want to go to the cover art really quick.
Yes.
Looking at it I'm the man, and I'm a superhero, I know my worth and different things like that. Like that album cover was really dope.
Yeah, that, and then the other joints, the Bristol Hotel and Go Cut Creator Go.
The Get Down.
Yeah, the Get Down. Yeah, those things like that. Now, what I will say sonically, when you listen to the album, it's very clear that Rick Rubin is not a part of this album, because I will say this, it's not as crisp and clear as Radio, sonically.
And it takes a different approach as well.
Right.
Sonically, like you said. And it's actually, I know before I said that Rick Rubin, when we talked about Radio, had the rock in it. It was more leaning to the 808s and rock and guitar riffs. This one was more funky.
Yes.
And I know funk music is a subgenre of rock and roll, but it had that more funk type of style to it than other traditional subgenres within rock and roll. And go ahead. You was about to say something?
No, you good. Go ahead.
Oh, and another thing I liked about it is that when you go to the Get Down, it does have a jazz instrumentation in it as well.
Now, one of the possible reasons for that is because DJ Pooh was a part of the production team. Mm-hmm. And DJ Pooh, originally he's a West Coast cat.
that brings me into something I was going to wait to say till later on, but I will say it now, and I don't care if people get mad. I think that LL Cool J was actually one of the most versatile MCs in hip-hop, period. He was able to do the West Coast style and also bring on West Coast producers and also traditional New York City producers. He was able... No, he was also able to do more of a grungy a style of hip hop, like when you see that with 4 3 2 1. And I know, but we're going to go into that later, but I'm just going to say that I feel personally that he's one of the most versatile MCs in hip hop.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it.
Yeah, now that's a strong statement right there. What would you say though? What would you say now with the West Coast when they came into it? They did bring in that more jazzy, melodic, soulful side
to LA Posse.
Now, I will say this. This is a question. And this is people, because folks like to type and listen along the way. Would you say the West Coast had some influence? Because if you see the early East Coast AMCs, they were more gritty in their lyrics. Not lyrics, more gritty in their instrumentation. But as we state, you can sonically feel the difference from radio to Bad, and you can feel there's more of a jazzy, melodic vibe to it. Def
Jam was very clever. Because before West Coast even became poppin', they had a couple of producers who were from the West Coast who came over to the East Coast to produce some tracks. So you got LA Posse, and you also have, I think that's probably what added to LL Cool J.
Yeah.
The fact that you did have that influence early on in East Coast hip hop with that smoothness that basically LL Cool J personified when it came to lyrically. I know he was always smooth prior to that, but when it came to his lyricism.
I think this is what I'm going to say about this one. It's still a dope album. But I think what he was able to do quietly incorporate what they had already saw what was about to take place. And slid it in there like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm serious because you can clearly feel the difference from radio to Bad, but it's still a dope album. But yes, that more funky vibe, that more funk vibe, you can feel it here on the Bad album.
Well, one can argue that Radio was a better album, even though both are classics. But one can say though that for this album, Bigger and Deffer, that it was more revolutionary because of the single I'm Bad.
Yeah, I could see that. But I did think, I saw, if you look at some of the East Coast acts, probably before, the West Coast really took prominence, their beat selections were very gritty and hard-hitting.
Yeah.
Then later came, that jazzy, soulful vibe, and plus you also had cats like DJ Premier, who was born in Dallas, Texas, but Texas was playing a weird place because earlier it was a Southern West Coast fusion. Then, later on as the South did their own little thing, they kind of stood alone talking about, we're South, but DJ Premier, he started, he was going to the East Coast, and he had brought that soulful, melodic vibe instrumentation.
Well, that's what actually a lot of East Coast rappers and people who love hip hop have to be honest about, is that a lot of the producers came over to the East Coast before the big MCs came about and came forward for those regions. Like if you look at Chicago, a long history in jazz. You have people who were producers from Chicago who was coming over to the East Coast. So the East Coast was the mecca of hip hop. So you had those people, if they wanted to do it, they were coming over to the East Coast before they got their own wave popping with their own MCs that were leading the charge in the culture.
Well, yeah. The only reason why I bring up that because again, you can feel it from radio to Bad. You can definitely feel there is an element missing, or there was a definite artistic change. And one thing I will say about the hard hitting production, that gritty production that East Coast is known for, you can see it or you can feel it with Radio, Raising Hell, and License to Ill. And then if you even go look at, let's bring it up to something a little bit more contemporary, Bobby Shmurda, Hot Nigga. That's an East Coast beat. You see what I'm saying? That's the East Coast beat. So, definitely, Bad, dope ass album. In 1989, LL Cool J released Walking with a Panther. Now, LL had the opportunity to release his third album in 1989 called Walking with a Panther, and the album was a commercial success with several charting singles such as Going Back to Cali and I'm the Type of Guy, and then also Jingling Baby, Big Old Bud, and One Shot at Love. So, what is your take on Walking with a Panther?
Walking with the Panther had a lot of humor to it. A lot of people do not give LL Cool J credit for being funny, because he really was funny when
he is a funny guy.
He's a funny guy, you know. And definitely Walking with a Panther embody that with, you know, Big Old Bud, tracks like that, or what was the other one?
I'm the Type of Guy.
I'm the Type of the guy.
That
I really love that video too, because it was condescending. He's a troll. No, let's think about it. LL was a troll.
Yeah. I'm the Type of Guy. Yeah, no. You know what's interesting? Now, the thing about the album itself, of course, if we are judging the album today compared to a lot of L's hip hop has taken and rap in general, we would say, of course, it's LL, it's a classic. But when the album was initially released, believe it or not, the hip hop community did not receive it well. It had mixed reviews. The only reason why is because LL, for the most part, like we stated, regarding his second album, he started working in more R&B singles. And then, the bravado as in hip hop, is, what's up with all these R&B singles? And, what about us? What about the fellas? So I'm just saying, so at the time, the album did receive somewhat mixed reviews, but it still was a commercial success.
Yeah, and some of the dudes were crying, but actually, when you think about it, LL Cool J started the singles that were basically orchestrated for so-called women. Now, I know some is like, that's stereotypical, and not every woman likes certain ladies' tracks, but LL Cool J definitely created that. He was the one that created that lane. That's why now when you listen to hip hop today, they try to incorporate at least one track that they say the ladies will love, or that's supposed to talk about love or being in a relationship. And also going back to one of LL Cool J's singles when it came to this album called Dropping 'Em, he got in. There was a lot of hearsay or speculation that he was dissing MC Shan. And when you listen to it, you kind of feel like he was.
Oh yeah.
Which I think at this point we could say he was talking about MC Shan.
He was.
And it was a dope ass track, And again, classic LL Cool J humor.
Now I will say this. If I was like a definitely, a fan in that era, me personally, not judging the album now, but at then, based on, the spree LL was on, coming from radio to Bad, and then, you have this one, I probably would be a little bit disappointed with the album.
It was more experimental.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I mean, there was some remnants of some of his previous albums with like the joint Clap Your Hands and
Jingling Baby?
No, not Jingling Baby. The one It Gets No Rougher.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, and
It Gets No Rougher definitely is classic.
Yeah, and
the previous album.
Then he had the other joint Jealous, and then 1-900. Now, what is clear though, Herbie Hancock was sampled a couple times on this album, so you could tell the production team, they were definitely fans of Herbie Hancock.
And quick, also when it came to the Jealous, first of all, he was definitely talking about a lot of his haters at that particular time. But LL Cool J, again, with that single, was also directing some shots at MC Shan.
Poor MC Shan.
But this album was very experimental for him, and you're right. It definitely had some singles. He was trying to be slick here. He was trying to put some singles together here that people who loved his other two albums would enjoy, while also taking out the time to do some experimental music and singles that he wanted to display.
Well, let's be real. About that time, this is when he was really coming into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So, he was kind of tailoring his image a little different. Plus, he felt he was getting a little older. He didn't want to be, getting older, keep making the same song, I'm bad, I'll, squash it like a jelly bean. He didn't want to keep doing that. But he touched on it a little bit, but you could tell definitely with this album, he was going a different direction.
Absolutely, and yeah, he was definitely, when you look at the tone of it, even with his upbeat singles, it was more like smooth, like laid back type of smooth.
Yeah,
like he's like just sitting back and chilling.
Yeah, you know what's funny about LL? Like if you look at the early videos, it's funny because he changes his temperament to mirror the song in the video. So, like the one joint, One Shot at Love. First of all, it starts off. It's filmed in black and white. He's like, "Hey there," it's like, come on, man.
Also, I want to add to a lot of different producers were on this album. More producers were on this album than his previous album. So you had people like DJ Cut. You had the Bomb Squad. Of course, you had Rick Rubin brought back for some singles again.
Yes.
So you did have a lot more producers on this album than his other two.
Yeah, and actually, you can feel the resurgence of that 808 here on this album. You can feel it on this album as opposed to Bad. That slight crispiness. That's why I said some joints like Clap Your Hand, and even going back to Cali, which was a Rick Rubin produced joint, you can kind of feel some remnants of the radio album. So yeah, still at the same time, compared to what we got here, is definitely a classic. But I'm sure I can reasonably understand why the hip hop community did not completely receive. Yeah, they were split. They were definitely split.
And the last thing I wanted to say on it is I also forgot one last producer, Dwayne Simon.
In 1990, LL Cool J released Mama Said Knock You Out. In 1990, of course, LL Cool J released Mama Said Knock You Out. His fourth studio album, the Marley Marl produced album, received critical acclaim and eventually went double platinum, selling over 2 million copies according to RIAA. LL won a Grammy Award for Best Rap Solo Performance in 1992 for the title track.
Now, Mama Said Knock You Out was definitely a dope track, and if we want to, for me personally, looking at radio and the albums that were previous to this one, by far Mama Said Knock You Out is my favorite.
Okay.
Almost all the tracks I can just listen through, and they're really dope, including, the title single, Mama Said Knock You Out. The visuals for that video was definitely groundbreaking at that time, and even today. So when you even think about it, even going to the video aspect, LL Cool J was a trailblazer, and all the people that worked on the videos with him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, first of all, Marley Marl was
a dope producer.
Yeah, and then also Bobby Bobcat Irvin returned to this album here. He returned back to the LL Cool J camp because on Walk with a Panther they had some legality issues at the time, and he was vacant. He was exited at that time, which he even went as far as to state that that's why he said the album could have been better, but because he wasn't there to give the proper guidance and tips, that's why it wasn't well received and it ended up being what it was. That's Walk with a Panther, that is. But now with Mama Said Knock You Out, this is what was interesting about this album, because it was heralded as LL's comeback, right?
Yeah, because of the split, how people felt from the previous one. Yes, this was his comeback.
This is something he did that was very slick. The first time around with the Panther album, he was placating a little bit more to the women, right? So he was like, Once Love, One Shot at Love, right? Those types of singles were on that album.
And One Shot of Love, to me personally, was a bad single.
Yeah.
He comes off as if you look at it, it's a hit and miss. Is a hit because he's very funny, and that's always, he likes to be a troll. So when you think about it, listening to it, you can still listen to it because it's very entertaining, but sonically and lyrically, it was a miss.
Yeah, even thematically, it was a miss because the people at the time, the hip hop folks, it came off a little bit too
cheesy.
Yeah, it came off cheesy. Now this one, he went back to player mode. Think about it, because on the Panther album, he was trying to be I'm in love guy, right? And what he was, all I'm saying is that he was able to flip it. He kept more of the hardcore type singles, and even if he did singles talking to the women, he was talking from the player standpoint.
When he did Radio and Bigger and Deafer, the thing that made them work is he did the player thing, but he also balanced it with the love thing. It wasn't too much though.
It was one single actually on Radio.
Yeah, when the Panther album came out, it was way too much, and it was just fucking cheesy. Come on, like stop it, LL. Mama Said Knock You Out. He went back to doing the player thing. But he also had some love material relationship dialogue within this album as well. But it's back to being a balance. And for a balance, I mean like 1 or 2 tracks.
Well, this is how he covered the women territory. He put in songs like "You Jingling Baby." Mm-hmm. So, where
Around the Way Girl is a love. You think
it is.
It's a love. But that song is interesting because it was done in a way that guys liked it too. He wasn't being a player in that one.
No, he was just describing a particular type of woman or several types of women that he liked.
And sonically, it didn't sound bad.
No, it did not. Because if you think about it, you can almost say Around the Way was like a progenitor to what Jay-Z did with Girls, Girls, Girls.
Yeah, but done in a slightly more. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But for LL, it was still tailored to more interest in her mind and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah.
Because
with Jay-Z on the Girls, Girls, Girls.
Physical.
Well, also it was humorous too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But what he was talking about the variations of the type of women.
Yeah, I agree
that
with
aspect.
You on
So
that.
for him to speak at it from that standpoint, and guys can relate, and then some of the women like, oh, that's me, because he starts off, the girl with the extension. He's talking about, I want a regular down to earth woman.
Fall in love with.
Right, think about it. I'm LL. I'm this big star. I got all the money. I've been squashing rappers like a jelly bean, right? Mm-hmm. But I want a down to earth, around the way girl.
And it reminds me of like A Tribe Called Quest when they what's the song that I'm thinking of?
What, Miss Apple Bonito?
No, not that one. It's the one where they're in the cafe and
You really gotta stop doing this. It's okay, but go ahead, illustrate your point.
Anyway, with the Around the Way Girl, it was just basically what we stated. I really needed to remember that single because it was like in the same temperament where sometimes you had the gray color scheme in the video.
Oh, you talking about visually?
And it had just the regular girl walking down the street with the baggy pants and sweater, and she wasn't overly sexualized. She wasn't sexualized at all visually, although the guys were saying, what they like, but they also was just saying how they respect a woman like that. And Around the Way Girl, it had the same temperament. Mm-hmm. He was saying, like you said, the type of girl he liked, and he was also saying, even though he's LL Cool J, he still needs love, and he still would like just a cool chick that he can actually fall in love with and have things in common.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Are you talking about relaxation? Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Electric relaxation. I love that single. But I'm saying, like, the temperament for both of those videos and the songs is pretty much the same.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Definitely. Yeah, electric relaxation. That is the single, of course, that Sincere was referring to. Now, with Mama Said Knock You Out, the reason why they did say it was his return, because if you listen to it lyrically, he does go back to his roots with Radio and Bad, but the production was just a little different.
The production of it was different, like you said, with Mama Said Knock You Out, but he did go back to a lot of elements when it came to Radio. And, it's just LL Cool J, even the cover of Mama Said Knock You Out. Okay, his lips are like, I'm here, man. I get your girl, man.
Yeah, I'm sweaty. Yeah, I got a chain. That's all I got on.
I got some baby oil on it.
But what was interesting about Mama Said Knock You Out is his voice tone, his vocal tone was deeper. His voice was
a
deeper.
Man now.
Yeah, he was 22 at the time. So he grew at least, with his voice. This was the voice we were going to hear for the rest of his career.
Exactly. And this was the voice that I felt was unique in a sense that it was very buttery smooth, but it was very hard and commanding at the same time, where hard knocking beats didn't drown him out, even though he could still be smooth on it lyrically in his rhyme scheme, and his cadence. So that's definitely something I think was dope about LL Cool J.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something like a Big Daddy Kane may have noticed.
It had to, because let's be real.
Because that was Kane style.
LL swagger jacked a little bit.
He did pull a little bit of Drakeism.
But we have to admit, even though a lot of people always are bringing up Big Daddy Kane, hands down, LL Cool J has a better discography.
Oh yeah, that is correct, because it was a period Kane got into his like sexual dark chocolate BET uncut shit. You know what I'm just saying? So
Yeah,
but Mama Said Knock You Out was definitely LL's return to his roots lyrically.
And single wise, I mean, you had a lot of great singles. Booming System, again, like we mentioned, Around the Way Girl, Eat 'Em Up, Mr. Good Bar, Mama Said, of course, Jingling Baby. You know, it's really dope.
That Mama Said Knock You Out, it's like, you know, that's the jam. Mm-hmm. That is the jam right there. You're like, man, I don't know who he talking to, but somebody about to get knocked out because his mama told him.
And it's also, I think this one was even more, I think this was his most groundbreaking album, interestingly enough, even though we talked about, you know, I'm Bad from his second album, Bigger and Deffer, and then we talk about Radio, the introduction of LL Cool J, but it's like with Mama Said Knock You Out, it was every single element all together coming into a climax for me personally for LL Cool J, and like a reintroduction and a better introduction even than for me personally than his initial one, even though that's a classic album. But you know, like I said, I love Mama Said Knock You Out, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting you use climax in LL.
Oh, stop it.
No, I'm trolling. But no, seriously, the content package, the formula he approached this album with, you know, if a rapper wanted to pay attention to see what was working or what does work, just enough singles to keep the fellas' heads ringing, just enough to get the women's interest. And even when he, like I said, when he put some information out there for the ladies, it was still in a jingling fashion that, you know, the fellas was rocking with it too, which is very slick. You know, it's almost like if you watch some rappers, they fail miserably when they try, but LL was the perfect hybrid rapper. He was able to do that
because he realized like guys like those type of songs too, just like women like the hard knocking beats and the you know, the lyricism, the hard edge lyricism that isn't about love. But it's like with the love songs, it wasn't cheesy, and sonically, because guys listen to love songs too, but sonically it was great.
Yeah,
like, you know, Around the Way Girl, I mean, song is dope.
Well, it's even like, okay, I'll go ahead and, you know, pull out, you know, one of the more recent albums in hip hop. Like, it's almost like the first time I heard Jay-Z did Song Cry. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna lie, like the first time I heard it, that was the only track I was always considering and debating whether I was gonna skip over it or not. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, it was too much, but then it was like when I listened to it, I was like, okay, it's all right. But
I would tell you on that album, it was my least favorite, but it was I can understand why people perceived it as a dope single. Yeah. And go ahead.
No, all I was gonna say is that LL just, like, if you listen to like Mama Said Knock You Out, like, you know, you do run into those tracks. I wasn't debating skipping over it.
Now, Take Care for me with Drake. Okay. I'm gonna bring him into this with the song Cameras. To be honest with you, that track sounds like a track from LL Cool J from Mama Said Knock You Out. Yeah. And I'm gonna say that Drake, a lot of people, not just Drake, but they do have to give LL Cool J credit with that. But I'm just saying, when I know Take Care is a very split album for a lot of people. Some people felt it was too much R&B in it. Some people wanted a more traditional, hard-hitting hip-hop that they wanted from him, that some people argued for. But when I listen to the single, I'm just talking about the single Cameras, it really does, it would have worked well with this album because it really was like that Around the Way Girl type single for me personally.
Well, with Drake's Take Care album, like, to be honest with you, you know, you and I, we talked about this. It's like, I listened to it and it was like, to me, it was real strong. And then like somewhere towards the end, I don't know if it was just too many tracks, it kind of lost me.
That's what him and 40 talked about before. Yeah. They said if they did it, if they was able to do it all over again, there's certain things they would have changed and rearranged. They said they're proud of the project, but they just realized they could have made it crisper. They could have taken some songs out,
condensed it.
They definitely agreed about that.
Yeah, because honestly, just visually, conceptually, and the aesthetics, especially the joint with Rihanna where they sampled Jill Scott Heron, and even that little breakdown point is one of my favorite parts of the song. But when people were knocking the Drake album Take Care, they was like, it's R&B-ish. Look, those type of smooth melodic tracks and those flows and that crooning, it works when it works. When it doesn't work, like when Drake did on, what was it, Nothing Was the Same Again. And
yeah, one song that was really
the one that was like,
I didn't like that.
Like that song, like that was, I was like skipping over that shit. I hate that song, but they played it. But that was one of them joints that it didn't work. But Take Care, it was actually it was a decent album. It was nice, and yeah, there's no way Drake has not studied LL Cool J.
To be honest, before we go back to LL, you know, Drake for me is an embodiment of Joe Budden and LL Cool J.
Yeah, I can see that because we talked about that. You know, there were patterns in Joe Budden. Like, I know when I first heard Drake, it was patterns in Joe Budden that I recognized in Drake.
You could tell that Drake listened to Joe Budden a lot. And I know that for all the people who go on and say they disagree, I know that Joe Budden is
a monster
more
lyrically
than Drake. We know that he's superior, but we're just saying with the emotions and also sometimes with the cadence, you could tell that Drake listened to Joe Budden heavily.
Oh yeah, all you gotta do, listen to a joint. All right, how about this for argument's sake? Because I know some Negroes, they gonna turn up in the comment section. You don't know hip hop. Yeah, unsubscribing. But anyway, look, think about this. If you listen to a joint like on Mood Music 3, right? Without DJ on point to my DJ on point, right? Mm-hmm. Mood Music 3, listen to the track featuring Imani, All of Me, and then compare it to when Drake did the 30 for 30 joint.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly, and they were very similar. And one last thing I would say about LL Cool J when it comes to Mama Said Knock You Out, LL Cool J was involved with producing this album as well, so he gets credit for that.
Absolutely, and he gets credit for being all oily and sweaty. First rapper to ever do that successfully, and there was so many imitators.
I mean, it was, to be honest, it was him and the Big Daddy Kane was that whole open shirt, shirtless. Yeah, I'm a player from the ladies.
He boy look like Rick James' sons. In 1993, LL Cool J released 14 Shots to the Dome. And LL's next album is 14 Shots to the Dome. Now, to be honest with you, this is actually one of my favorite albums in his discography because I definitely like the smooth melodic flow of the tracks he was rapping on.
Well, you have like Buck 'Em Down, which is kind of like a West Coast track, to be honest. And yeah, 14 Shots to the Dome. I like the title of the album. I think that's very creative. You also had great producers on the album like Marley Marl, again, a legend, Q Dill, Bobby, Everin again, and you just basically Christopher Joseph Forte and Andrew Zenobal.
Oh yeah. Now, the reason why the album actually had the West Coast feel was because of QD3. That's Quincy Jones' son, that is. And at the time of the release, the album received a lot of criticism where people were saying it was sounding too similar to like Ice Cube and Cypress Hill. And even in the video, what is it? I'm Coming? Yeah, in the video, I'm Coming, you could tell this was a stage where LL was definitely adopting what was taking place in hip hop, so his appearance was a lot different.
But to be fair to them, they have to understand that LL Cool J was incorporating some West Coast sound.
Oh yeah, for the longest.
And it's correct. And then on this one, even when you look at the tracks, they're very New York. A lot of the other tracks on this album. So I think that they were just being highly critical, because like I said, you have other tracks on there that were very East Coast, very New York, very Queens, New York. So I mean, I get where they were going with it to an extent, but I think they were being just overboard. You know, you still had the New Jack Swing sound. You also had that in this album. You just had you had other implements of even East Coast hip hop and R&B in this, and then you had the West Coast flavor as well, like you said, with Quincy Jones III brought.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, again, this is definitely, it was a transition from radio all the way up until with 14 Shots to the Dome. So as you can tell, I will say this, you can listen clearly in his discography, LL's track selection, his musical ear was leaning more towards melodic tracks as opposed to those hard-hitting tracks on, radio and parts of Bad, that is. Or going back to the third album as well with Panther. So, I mean, it has some dope joints, but one thing about this album, I will say, towards the later part of the album, well, towards like the last half of the album, you can see that LL was infusing like more conscious material into his music, that is, which to be honest with you, he doesn't really get a lot of credit for the fact that he actually touched on some social commentary that was taking place in the world.
Oh, correct. And also what he did with Fubu,
yeah,
to come when later on when he joined up and was promoting Fubu, even when he went and did that campaign for
Gap,
yeah, that's right, and he was wearing some Fubu attire. So LL Cool J was already down in that aspect of black economics and supporting other black people, and like you said, talking about some conscious issues in this album.
Yeah, I mean, really the only tracks they can really say that it kind of had some of the swing on it was, again, the tracks that were produced by QD3, which was Buck 'Em Down, or Bucking 'Em Down, right? Yeah, two different songs, Bucking 'Em Down, and of course, Backseat of My Jeep.
And one other thing that I just realized, I think technically we can say that LL Cool J was always conscious, because even if you go back to Radio, Bigger, and Deffer, he was always dropping jewels there, anti-drugs.
Exactly.
Confidence in himself and his worth as a black man. So he always was basically on that tip.
It's just not brought up as much.
Like you said, just not brought up as much.
Just because, he's one of the greats that don't really get mentioned.
But, another reason why I think when he, if you put his albums in order for classic, more people, the majority of people would say Mama Said Knock You Out is the number one as a classic. So, and that came out like in 1990 or 1991. So then coming out in 1993 with 14 Shots to the Dome, you have people kind of trying to hold you to that in a way where he wasn't able to branch off of that until he came up with Mr. Smith. That's what I personally think.
Okay,
they him to that.
Yeah, I guess so. I can see that being an issue. I know we're looking at it from our point of view, going back 2020 hindsight.
Yeah, going back in time.
So, like a lot of his stuff to me is just classic. Even, you could tell which albums were a little weaker, but for the most part, it's only like the Panther album is like, to me. Now, some people may disagree, but it's a little bit off here and there in some regards with some of the choice tracks, that is. But
he had a lot of gems on it.
Yeah, but listening to this one, this is a strong album to me.
No, this is definitely a strong hip hop album.
Yeah, it is. So
crying about, to me, when all you could do is cry about your sound or your instrumentation or your flow at the moment sounding a little bit West Coast on certain tracks, that's not a good criticism to me, because as an artist, you're allowed to evolve and incorporate whatever you want as long as it sounds good. That's even going back to Kanye West. There was a lot of people doing the 808 sounds. He just perfected it, in my opinion, and went somewhere different with it when he did 808 Heartbreaks, which I thought was innovative. Now, one could cry and say, well, there was already people doing it, but he did it in a different way. So you still get credit, to me, personally.
Well, now, the thing about that criticism, again, it comes from New York, and let's be real. I'm just being real. Like, New York, boy, they are very critical of everything.
Did you see right there on track 3 where the tempo went, and he was kind of, he didn't catch it, you know what I'm saying? He didn't really catch it. That's why I give, props out to, Rocky.
Coldest Winter, the tracks that featured Lil Wayne. I'm sorry, also Kid Cudi, Rihanna. He had about 3 of his tracks. I think he had 3 features on it, but it was mostly him carrying it, and it was an innovative album for me.
Yeah, well, what people don't look at with 808, it was a team effort though. Because
absolutely,
he did have Sci-Hi the Prince doing some writing for him. He had Kid Cudi, who you can feel his energy on the album, his DNA on some of the tracks. That is, so it was put together very well. Going back,
visual art.
Yeah, the visual art was dope too.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, it sure was. But the thing about LL, to be fair to him at that time, 14 Shots to the Dome received some criticism, but honestly, like I said, the New York hip-hop fan base, they're very critical, so they're not gonna let you slide either way.
No, absolutely. But overall, it's a solid album. It's definitely good, in my opinion. I would call it a classic.
Oh yeah, I would listen to it.
Yeah, you can listen to it all the way straight through. I think it's a classic album from LL. I would say I'm always debating which one is number 1 for me, because it's between Mama Said or Mr. Smith.
Yes.
But 14 Shots to the Dome can easily slide in as like a 4th place. Some people may put Radio as number 3 or even number 1, actually, depending on.
Yeah, for me, I'll be honest with you, Radio's number 1. I would say actually 14 Shots. I wouldn't say it's number 2, but it would be like 3 in my book. But it would be Radio, Mr. Smith, and then maybe between Mama Said and 14 Shots.
And on that note, let's move on to the next album.
In 1995, LL Cool J released Mr. Smith. And then, of course, we got the incredible album, Mr. Smith. Now, a lot of people in hip-hop, they really, really know about this album here.
This is, for me, is my favorite album from LL Cool J. I swear it is. You have producers on there like Chad Elliott. You also had track masters. And basically, even with the intro of Mr. Smith, you have the Spanish guitar playing, and then you go into dope tracks like Make It Hot, which I know, for me, this one blended R&B and hip-hop the best out of any of his other albums, by far. It was butter. It was perfect.
I think now that I think about the album, of course, I would say without the street edge, because that's not what Drake's forte is.
Exactly,
but you can tell but you could tell. You could clearly hear that this album was an influence. Mm-hmm. Of course, rappers don't, vocalize who influenced them, but if you're a hip hop head, you can kind of smell which albums had an influence on their career. And the album itself, it went on to go ahead and sell over 2 million copies, with singles including like Doing It, Lounging, 2 dope tracks. Which,
also featuring Tara and Monica.
Yeah. And you also had Hey Lover, which was featuring Boyz II Men, and a sampling of Michael Jackson's The Lady in My Life. And it became one of hip hop's first music videos to air on VH1. So LL, I mean, again, just putting it down in the game for a long time. And then also, the song earned a Grammy Award.
Oh, and I also want to say, I know some people would assume that Make It Hot or Hey Lover would be my favorite track on it, but I actually like Hollis to Hollywood. That's my favorite track
because of
on
the
Mr.
movie
Smith.
references.
The movie references and how the wordplay and the metaphors, it was dope. It's my favorite, and also I could ride with him because I watched every film he talked about, Tales or TV shows and series like Tales from the Crypt. It was a really, really dope song to me, my favorite track on there.
You know what? Another thing I really enjoy, because I'm really big into album art. I love the album art.
Yeah, you're right. It's grainy.
Yeah.
But and you have LL Cool J head bowing down. It definitely is a dope album cover.
And it's just Mr. Smith. I'm not LL Cool J right now. This is Mr. Smith talking.
This is personal.
This is personal, right? This is the personal album. You know what? Another thing. There are some joints there, of course, we touched on Make It Hot, Life Ass, and No Airplay, the funny intro with all the women giving shouts out to their dudes and stuff, and he's like at the house party and everything. Mm-hmm. And of course, like you said, Hollis to Queens. I really enjoyed the instrumental on God Bless. You know what I'm saying? I really like that one. And then, of course, You know, you got the who shot you? No, I shot you. My bad. I'm tripping. You know, there's a difference, big difference. But yeah, I shot you. And one thing I love about that song, like Keith Murray gets no credit, but I love the energy he brought to the track.
Yeah, Keith Murray always brings dope energy to a track.
Right.
You know, him and LL Cool J collaborates for another single years later. But you know, you also got Fat Joe and Foxy Brown on the remix, and Prodigy.
Yes, yeah, Prodigy. But you know what? Going back to Keith Murray, you know, he's another underrated cat that we probably have to talk about a little bit. You know, that
when we talk about the funny guys of hip hop,
Hip-hop, yeah,
Keith Murray definitely should be in that conversation with Redman and Buster.
The most beautifulest thing, you know. You know what group I always thought that, like, because everybody always talk about like super groups, right? Like one of the trios that I always thought was severely underrated was when it was Redman, Keith Murray, and Eric Sermon.
Yeah,
that was a hot track. That was a hot collabo with all of them. But yeah, you know, Mr. Smith is definitely one of my favorite hip hop albums.
And he won East Coast back over with Mr. Smith. You know, they definitely enjoyed that album when it came out. And you know, when I also love hip hop, that track when he's playing homage to basically the musical genre he grew up with, and the one that to be honest, was a part of the Innovators.
Yeah. See, that's another thing I don't like, how they kind of sweep LL, because I mean he influenced a lot of cats, even the Biggies and Tupacs. He had that influence on all of them.
Absolutely.
You know, even Biggie snatching and doing his own version of Who Shot You.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, he should be given a lot of credit in hip hop, and definitely this Mr. Smith album, because to me it blended R&B and hip hop so well, you know. And then he perfected the love tracks now. You know, when we go to Bigger and Deffer, he had some L's on there. You know.
Well, it was the Panther joint that he. Really,
Walking with the Panther.
Yeah,
Thank you for the correction. Yeah, Walking with a Panther was the one where he had taken some L's with the love tracks.
Yeah.
But this one he perfected it so well because sonically, both genders loved the track. It was smooth. The vocals, the instrumentation. You know, because some people kind of are full of shit. They try to say like these type of singles are just for women, even though guys know their asses love these singles as well.
My thing is this. Shit, nigga, you like women, right?
Yeah, you know. How can you be cool with Marvin Gaye and you like James Brown and them, but all of a sudden when it comes to hip hop and someone makes a dope ass single like Hey Lover or Make It Hot, it's like, that's for the ladies, that's it.
Yeah, I get tired of that shit. I be like, well, you like women, right? What's up with that? But you know, I mean, being real with you though, going back to Panther, because I think Panther was an album that it must have been like a lesson for him, because after that he went back to his original team, and then also when he got to Mama Said Knock You Out, he did something interesting with the love singles or the tracks that was supposed to be geared towards women. He didn't touch on it in the sense of I'm in love with somebody or I'm the lover boy, right? He had some joints on there, but you could tell he was kind of shying away from it to get it filled out. And then when he came back to Mr. Smith, like you stated, he was able to perfect being able to talk to the ladies and fellas.
Yeah, because so far prior to Mr. Smith, like the one that I felt was my favorite song that he did, that was kind of a love song or paying homage to the type of women he can fall in love with, was Around the Way Girl. But you're right, it's like after he kind of limited himself more so when it came to his other albums after the Panther one, until Mr. Smith, where he just perfected it.
It's a damn shame, even just talking about this man's stuff. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, they be mentioning everybody else but LL.
I'm telling you, it's hate. I mean, this album is definitely. How can you hate on someone who has 4 classics? We're talking about 4 classics. We'll say Mr. Smith, Radio, Bigger and Deffer, and Mama Said. Any other album is debatable, like the Panther one, but that's 4. I feel 4 universally
praised albums. Yeah, and I can even feel personally a sleeper classic is the 14 Shots.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a sleeper classic. So that kind of puts him in the fray technically with 5. You know what I'm saying?
And he's that put him in the atmosphere that a lot of other or most rappers aren't in. With the exceptions of maybe people like DMX, Kanye West. You don't have that many people who have that many classics.
Yeah, when you think about it, because even with Jay-Z, he did Reasonable Doubt.
Yep.
the Life and Times Volume 1.
Blueprint.
Yeah, Blueprint. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's 3 solid. The Black Album was a good album,
Yeah, it was
but
good.
it's a debatable.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of people, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't skip any tracks on the Black Album, so I might add it, but it's not universally
Yeah, and the reason, and for that right there, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not my album. It's like, honestly, it's the album that I don't play. It's not that I thought the album was trash. It's just not. It's not the album I go back to like with Blueprint or Reasonable Doubt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or even Life and Times Volume 1. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it is weird with LL. Like, I mean, when you go through there, it's like he's just. I don't know. I think something had to do with the later years of how he made that transition from the rap game to becoming a successful actor.
I don't know, because maybe that has something to do with it, but I really think it shouldn't be an issue with the whole transitioning to acting, although I guess for some people it is, because they think you're like Will Smith now. Not in your rapping ability, but like they just put you like you did a Will Smith move. And then you look at people like T.I., who's also, personally to me, is in a category with Kanye West, DMX, and LL Cool J, who had a nice collection where he has like three classic albums.
Well, now here's the thing. The only reason why I say you have to be careful with that, even though I grew up on this. No. The reason why I say that, like I grew up in the South. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll say it freely. You know what I'm saying? But like somebody from, I'm telling you, the critics from New York, the cats from New York, they be like, nah, man, he only had one good album. It was trap music. You know what I'm saying? Some cats may look at it like that. So if you start mentioning him in there with Kanye West and things like that, I'm just being real with you.
Well, it doesn't matter what the fuck they say.
Well,
he had 3 critically
I'll break
albums.
it down. I'll break it down to you. I'm Serious is a dope album. It just didn't sell well with joints like.
So it's an underground. That won't be an underground classic.
Yeah. It's a joint like joints like I Still Ain't Forgave Myself, or like when people say T.I. can't do concept. And when he did a song where he had an eternal fight for his soul in heaven and hell, I mean, that was a dope track. Then you had trap music. Then you had Urban Legend. Then you had King. And then his official...
let's say 4 then.
Well, his official classic was Paper Trail.
So that's 5. That's 4 mainstream classics, and that's 1 underground classic.
Yes.
So he's definitely in there.
Yeah, I mean, be real with you. He got... I would say, really, Ludacris has 1.
I'll be honest with you, and I'll say the same thing.
Ludacris has 1, which is word of mouth, and then what happened, he kind of got stuck creatively. You know what I'm saying? He's funny, don't get me wrong, still one of the dopest
funny
rappers.
man of hip-hop.
Yeah, exactly, but when you start mentioning these guys, like even going through with, what, we got Nas, right? Let's look at Nas, right?
Yeah.
What you got? Illmatic. It Was Written. Yeah, it's crazy now that you think about it.
Nas has we could universally 3. Say 3 albums.
Well, let me see. You got Nas, you got Illmatic, It Was Written, I Am. Then to me, I felt Life Is Good is a decent. To me,
that's a solid album. It's not a classic, but it's a good album to me personally.
I think
because it had a couple of filler joints in there.
What did you feel was a filler joint?
You putting me on the spot. Now I gotta go back there and pick out a single.
Well, we're just talking. I mean, I didn't find any filler joints on there. Oh yeah, and it's always with Swiss Beats production. Life is good. Life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, then he had one where he had someone was featuring on one of his tracks, and that was a filler track on Life is Good.
What did you think about? You talking about? It's not the one with Rick Ross. Is Accidental Murderers?
No, it's not the one with Rick Ross, and it's not the one with
Because, I mean, I thought it was a really good album. What did you think about Hip Hop Is Dead, though?
Hip Hop Is Dead, I thought that was a great album.
Yeah,
people didn't like it. I mean, people was hating because of the title, but I thought it was funny that he did that and got people mad. And I thought it was a great album.
Now, to be honest with you, I think Hip Hop Is Dead, I would say artistically, it's a much more stronger album than... it's debatable though. Let me go back on that because one thing I liked about Hip Hop Is Dead, it didn't have any filler joints to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like Hip Hop Is Dead had no filler joints. Life Is Good was a solid album. It's not taken away from it. It was a solid album, but I remember listening to it. I was like, there was 1, 2, or 3, maybe even 3 tracks that were fillers, and everything else was.
You know what?
Was
Now I think about it, yeah, because people might get mad at me. I do skip over the track with Amy Winehouse.
Oh,
Yes.
that's your filler?
Yes.
Oh no, I didn't.
No, I don't like that song. Every time that song comes, look, Amy Winehouse was dope, but that song right there, I'm like, oh, this is.
Look.
Yeah.
Sonically though, that single was dope. I mean, of course, you're not getting the intricate lyricism from Nas from that one, but it was just a simple where's the love of my life type of song.
This shit was dragging to me.
But Amy Winehouse, those vocals was dope.
Yeah, no, that's ain't to take away from Amy Winehouse, but the song was still dragging and shit. Like the joint I didn't like, I did like, was the one with Mary J. Blige.
All right, that was a dope one.
And then of course the other filler I would say had to be the one with Swiss Beats in the background. I love Swiss Beats as far as a producer goes, but every time it's iffy. It's like Timberland and Swiss Beats are like iffy with Nas. It's hit or miss.
I agree.
It's definitely hit or miss. But getting back to the Mr. Smith. I mean,
1995.
Yeah, and then what was the other albums that he had afterwards? In 1997, LL Cool J released Phenomenon.
Well, after Mr. Smith, he had, of course, Phenomenon.
Yeah, now Phenomenon, yeah.
You know what, I'm going to be honest with you. The single Phenomenon that he came out with the video, when I first heard that shit, I was like, this shit is doo-doo. But then I kept listening to it, then I finally was like, okay, I like the joint now.
You've been brainwashed.
I got brainwashed into liking it, because then I was like, okay, I like it now. But I will say that it was produced, that one was by Diddy.
Oh,
Diddy was,
that's why that shit was all shiny. Yeah, because look,
that shit had Diddy all over it.
Let's be real. Like, LL, he had the above the other rappers vibe, but he didn't have the shiny suit vibe.
No.
That's why that album, even the video used to irk me. I'm like...
Yeah, but there also was other producers on there. And then this is another... I'll go back to it. I remember there was one more. It probably was Bigger Than Deffer, where it had a lot of producers on there. The second album of his where he had a lot of producers on there was Phenomenon. So you got Diddy, you got Hitman, Derek D. Dot, you had also Ron Lawrence, Trackmasters, Kurt Gardy, Eric Sermon.
Yeah, actually, you think about it, but honestly, looking at this list,
Stevie J.
Yeah, I mean, the Hitman, D-Dot, Stevie J, because, people sleep on Stevie J, but anyway.
Yeah, he used to produce some stuff for Mariah Carey, too.
And Eve as well. You know, of course, we know how that ended. But anyway, and Trackmasters were like, at least for from 97 to 99, they were doing a lot of shit. LES was a dope producer. I think he's still doing some stuff. And of course, the homie Eric Sermon, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? With Phenomenon, for me, it was just a good... Like, it had some good singles on there that you can, 4321 is a classic single off of Phenomenon.
That's for other reasons, too.
Yeah, but that's a classic hip-hop single, which kind of solidifies Phenomenon in a way for that. And, you had some other joints on there that was
I think what got him in trouble was that goddamn lead single. Something like a phenomenon.
But it sounds like Diddy. Diddy does that. I wanna, like that.
Yeah,
type
but
of shit.
we don't need to Diddy-fy LL.
No, that, and then the whole plastic and like, come on.
Shiny
and
suit.
he looked like Diddy directed the video too.
It looked like they put baby oil on the plastic he had. Make it extra shiny. Yeah, that's beautiful.
But you know what? We gotta give him credit because that 4321 joint countered that phenomenon. Because if it wasn't for that joint, people would have been.
Yeah, well, think about it now. He had to immediately go to the hard shit after that.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Release this single here. Because
then with the whole beef with cannabis, that helped. That definitely.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I gotta talk about that. But what if? Think about it. Do you think 4321? Do you think that could have fit in with Mr. Smith? That song. If they,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
You have I Shot Ya.
Yeah.
right after I Shot Ya, you can easily put 4, 3, 2, 1.
And that would have moved Mr. Smith as an album even higher in people's hip hop category.
I agree with you. I think that it probably should have been on there. Because to me, Mr. Smith is a perfect album. It's the only album for me personally from LL Cool J that I feel is a perfect album where I do not skip over any singles.
Ain't got no headsprung tracks.
no headsprung. Look at the headsprung. I remember my teacher. She was like, LL's too old for that. She was like, that's a whack ass song. I was like, I know.
Well, listen to the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics.
And we be up in the club.
Well, I knew that shit had Timbaland's DNA all over that. I said, God damn, he been Timberfied. You know what? But think about this. Even when he was like this, Lord of Mercy is the broadest Thursday.
Yeah, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But that wasn't on Phenomenon for people who are like, no, that wasn't on Phenomenon.
We know that. We know that. Sit your ass down.
Yeah, but we just bringing it up because that was.
We got some auto-corrective motherfuckers on the internet. They be correctify you. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about L and cannabis. Yeah,
so you already know. Most people should know that Cannabis was a fan of LL, and he said he at first his first verse was about borrowing the mic off of LL Cool J's arm, basically paying homage to him. He thought, but LL, his conceited ass read it. He's like, nah, you better rewrite this shit.
All right, that's what I'll go back in there. I'm gonna rewrite it. You know what I'm saying? Because I respect you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's no problem. LL got right on there and double crossed that nigga.
He kept his verse on there. To be honest with you, no disrespect to Master P, because with No Limit.
Watch your mouth.
I think he was very innovative.
Watch your mouth.
And he's still innovative now.
Watch your mouth.
And Master P is definitely an important ingredient in
Don't
hip-hop
do it.
when it comes to being independent. But his verse on 4, 3, 2, 1 was shit. Like, that did not need to be in there.
First of all.
And then they dragged his verse out longer than DMX.
Stick him. Ha, ha, ha. Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. It was a very random placement. And I think, honestly, either because LL is he's very smooth about quietly lifting certain things from certain movements and applying it to his style. So I think he saw two things here. He was trying to, give the South some, look.
Some love.
No,
I will say LL Cool J, even despite the whole thing with Tupac, LL Cool J was one of the East Coast rappers who really wanted to bring different rappers from different regions of the country together.
Yeah, so
in the sound.
Yeah, even though he showed love, don't mean the talent showed up. You know what I'm saying? Just being real with you, But look, the thing about cannabis, I know a lot of people that are really into the intricacies of lyrics. I'm one of them. But going back and listening to it, as much as I love cannabis music, I'm a big cannabis fan. Look, you go back to it. Cannabis, it was a decent, strong track, except you can't eat a nigga's ass like me.
That's what I'm saying. But it was more than a strong track. That shit was fire until he said they eat the ass part. Yeah. You can't eat a nigga ass better than me.
Yeah, but
that's like, ugh.
But now, if you listen to LL's response,
Jack the Ripper, yeah.
To be honest, it was almost overkill.
It was funny. Jack the Ripper was funny. He's like, 99 of your fans don't exist.
Yeah, he's like 99% of your fans don't exist. Stupid, you bought the book.
Well, people don't know, like we said previously, LL Cool J is a fucking troll. Like, that's actually what, Jamie Foxx is a comedian on Andy Given Sunday.
Yeah.
He still got so upset with LL because LL fucked him up. So
yeah.
So this shows just how much of a troll LL Cool J can be, and he is pretty funny if you actually listen to his lyrics. Jack the Ripper was funny.
Yeah, come on. He said, "I found you in the dumpster." That shit was funny. Yo, I mean, yeah, because I hate when people do that with LL. You know what I'm saying? They like, yeah, man, he was a. Look, let me tell you something about like cats, right? Like folks like hip hop heads. Sometimes they feel. Sometimes if you're winning too much all around, they don't want to give you your credit. Because think about it, LL was winning in the hip hop world. He started transitioning and he was winning before the hip hop world. In the hip hop world, His shit was being played in the streets. The ladies loved him too, all right, because how he looked and carried himself. Then he successfully transitioned to acting.
Now, when did his show came out? Because I don't know if it was 1995 or did it come out like in 1997?
It looked like a 97 type show. The vibe, it was like 97.
Yeah, because, see, this is the reason why people really love LL Cool J. Those shows and then him starring in films, it really added to his collection. Deep Blue Sea, for example. I enjoyed that movie, especially though with Samuel Jackson.
Well, I was just happy
before
that
he got fucked up by the shark. But I LL Cool J lived that to the end, and he was the hero. And
yeah. He did his thing. Yeah, he definitely put it out there, and it was 95 actually. He landed his own show.
So you come out with a dope-ass album like Mr. Smith, and you have your own show.
Yeah.
And he had Kim Waynes on there.
Kim Waynes is fucking funny.
And underrated.
She is fucking funny. I'm just being real with you. Yeah, it's weird the placement they got LL because even going back to the Phenomenon album, I think at that point, especially him being in Hollywood and then have fucking Puff Daddy shiny ass produce your video and be all in the all that. I think that's when they perceived him as gone Hollywood.
And
and it's not a fair assessment, to be honest with you, because it's supposed to be about growth in life. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the whole thing with Gucci, man. You're supposed to have growth. You're not supposed to be still
stagnant.
on number one or stagnant.
Yeah, because it's like people they want to see the old miserable and pregnant Gucci man. You know what I'm saying?
And to be honest with you, LL Cool J was always had that confidence. Even from radio, he had that confidence. So he was the type of nigga you always would hate.
Yes. A lot of guys would, and I honestly think, in a sense, it's probably why he didn't get as much props as he should. Because even like I said, in the battle with Cannabis, he has some funny ass lines in that shit.
He had a lot of funny lines.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Cannabis went for the whole, the intricacies of rhyming words.
It was
a hard track.
I'm still not undermining, because that was a hard track. It would have been perfect if he just didn't have that eating ass.
I'm gonna be honest.
To me, that took away, because that was open.
I don't know. I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay.
I'll say the reason why I say that is because if he had it in there or didn't have it in there, it was just a fucking energy that LL brought on that response.
It was still something that you still could have hit back on. It wasn't like it was a death blow where you can't get a dope trap to combat that.
That was a fucking wave. It was a fucking wave.
It was a wave.
It was a wave. LL, come on, he had the culture behind him.
He had the culture behind him, but Cannabis still could have came back at him. It's like, it wasn't like with Ja Rule, it was just unfair. You got Buster, DMX, Eminem. You had just a whole roster of people just raining hell on you.
Well, let me say this though. I'm gonna tell you what
You said he got blackballed.
And also, Ja Rule had a fucking chance. What happened was he dropped that goddamn Mesmerize video, and when 50 ran with that shit. You know what I'm saying? The
Memorized video was over the top.
That was bad timing. That was bad timing.
Not just bad timing. It was just too much.
Yeah, if he would have dropped something like Clap Back first, then people be like, yo, 50 ain't really gonna watch him like that.
No, but it wasn't about 50. 50, people overestimate 50. 50, just like he got beat by Rick Ross ignoring him. The defining factor, like we talked about before, it was a wave. It was everybody else.
It was everybody that jumped in. But I'm saying though, the fans would not have turned on Ja Rule as quickly if he had not dropped.
I agree with you on that.
I'm telling you, if he would have had like a Vini Vidi Vici single first, then the fans would have been more reluctant to 50's campaign.
I agree.
But it was just like all that shit was bad time, and I was like, God damn, Ja Rule, he about to eat your ass up. But yeah, definitely with LL though, he just went in. It was a funny fucking track. Even when you thought he was done on the Rip the Jacket track, right? Mm-hmm. He got more. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, look, to be honest with you, I mean, we had the subsequent albums, right? Like GOAT.
I didn't listen to GOAT 10. I'm not gonna lie, I liked it because of that song Paradise with Anne-Marie.
GOAT wasn't bad though.
No, I didn't listen to the GOAT track, so that's why I don't know if it was good or not. 10 I did listen to. It was okay album, and I'm not gonna lie. After 10, I didn't listen to anything else. Although I will be going back to listen to Authentic because everybody said that Authentic was actually a really dope album.
Yeah, it was
4
pretty
stars.
good. It was pretty good. And,
So I'm gonna go back to that. Could be an underground.
And this is
classic.
what I liked about LL. He had, well, it was not too long ago, he had a joint with Murder Mook. And LL was like really flexing some lyrical muscles on that. And I was like, damn, you know, he still got it, you know. And that's something that's interesting. It's unfortunate for our art because a lot of our MCs, they actually got better lyrically as they got older, but because the mentality in hip hop is kind of regressive, like we don't allow our artists to maintain relevancy as they age. Because think about it, like Rakim is rhyming way better than he did when he was younger. He was dope then. Royce da 5'9" is rhyming way better than he did 10 years ago.
Royce da 5'9" is getting shine. I think it's about appearance. First of all, Royce da 5'9" still look like he can be a part of the younger generation right now, so they perceive him as being younger. And then I don't know, some people make themselves dated by trying to fit in too much with the younger culture. And then is the aspect of what you said of just not paying homage and respect to people who are still bringing in dope rhymes, musically, instruments, everything, jazz, whatever they want, instrumentation, and not giving them the credit they deserve.
Yeah, and so after that, he had Definition, which had the Headsprung track.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Timberland,
it was produced by, and, you know, Joe, he know better. That's a UGK Negro. He be producing for UGK a lot. He know better than that. Of course, we had R. Kelly on there. He did some production. Dame Grease, who was usually not bad, Teddy Riley, you know, some of the usual suspects, and I use that lightly when mentioning R. Kelly, but anyway, and then after that he had Exit 13, which was a very interesting album because he has some real strong joints on there.
Yeah,
he really, but that was his
little Mo on there.
Yeah, that was his final joint with Def Jam though. You know, so I mean, it was for the most part, it was all right. I like the joint, You Better Watch Me, and that was when around that time when that album dropped. This is when everybody was going back into that '80s retro style, like New Kids and stuff. And he touched on it. He's like, "Oh, y'all want to go back to the '90s? Y'all want to go back to the '80s? I invented that." You know,
he did. And also one last thing, you know, there are always some rumbles in LL Cool J's later career about him having beef with Jay-Z.
Yes. Now that was because to be fair to LL, he had an album which had been sitting, and I believe it was the Exit 13 album. It may not or may have been that one. I can't remember, but I know his album had been sitting for 2 years. And he thought, you know, when Jay-Z became president of Def Jam, like, he was like, oh, okay, that's good. A rapper, you know, understands what we go through. So I know he's gonna, and, you know, of course, Hov was concerned with Rihanna, who was actually making money for them at the time. And his mind was focused elsewhere as well. He was dealing with Kanye. He was dealing with a lot. So, of course, LL isn't at the top of the list. So LL, he did a mixtape with K-Slay. He had never did a mixtape before. And he was doing so many subliminal shots. And you remember he was going on the interview circuit and he was talking about
like we said before, at
Jay-Z.
that particular time in LL Cool J's career, he could have easily did an in-house studio.
Yeah.
And met up with a particular company for the
to be fair with LL, let's be real. You know, at that time, because of his age, he was the classic traditional rapper that he wanted to go through the promotions. He wanted all that. So
gotta evolve though.
Yeah, again, he didn't know anything else. So he, you know, that was his thing. The label.
Yeah.
And so honestly, that is one battle I wish that I wish it would have happened, just to see what animal would have been brought out of LL. Would he have went back to his old radio days, or what Jay-Z would have said, just to see what both of them would use on each other? You know what I'm saying? That is one battle I wish I could have seen, but, you know, Hov never really responded to LL directly.
And before we move on to our top albums that in our order of what we feel are classic by LL Cool J, I will say about Authentic, it did have a lot of great features on there. You know, you had Eddie Van Halen, Snoop Dogg, you had the Tantrums, you had Charlie Wilson,
Earth, Wind and Fire, Bootsy Collins, Travis Barker, Chuck D, Tom Morello.
Yeah.
Yeah, of Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, so I mean, it was so much. Yeah, Monica. It was, to me, you know, it was one of these albums that really got lost in all of the fuckery right now. You know what I'm saying? But it was a decent album. It was one of the better albums.
So in conclusion, what will be your top albums of LL Cool J, the GOAT?
It sure in the fuck doesn't have that Headsprung in there. No, but seriously, the order's interchangeable. I know I listed A order a little bit earlier, but to be honest with you, it's interchangeable. So as long as you got Radio, Bigger and Deffer, and Mama Said Knock You Out, and 14 Shots to the Dome, and then of course you have Mr. Smith, I'm cool with that order.
For me, I would say that Mr. Smith is number one to me. That's my favorite album of LL Cool J. It's at the top of the classics. At number 2, I would put Mama Said. At number 3, it would be Radio for me. And then for number 4, it would be Bigger and Deffer. And 14 Shots to the Dome, I like it. So I'll put that as my last classic too.
Yeah, and finally this. Now, folks, I mean, LL, he has a long discography. And there were a few albums we didn't really touch on as much, like, what was it, Strictly Business?
Yeah,
and some other, yeah, you know, and some other ones as well. But what Sincere and I did, we touched on the ones that we really, really enjoyed.
Yes.
So, you know, but we just saying this is that we kind of feel like LL gets swept, you know?
And he deserves more respect.
Yeah, and I will say this. What do you think about somebody like, and we're finalizing this here, like, you know, Daddy Kane doesn't have a discography that's as long as LL.
LL Cool J, without a doubt, hands down, has a better discography. When it's better than Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I know folks may say, okay, we're talking about the lyricism. Understandable.
Lyricism, I would say that Big Daddy Kane was sharper.
We'll say technically.
Technically, on a technical level. I mean, to be honest with you, it still could be debatable because LL Cool J has a lot of clever and funny rhymes himself. So it is debatable, but on a technical level, you know, a lot of people would go with Big Daddy Kane. Yeah,
it was interesting with Daddy Kane. Like I said, with a lot of those rappers from the era, like you hear Daddy Kane now, like when he did some guest verses on the Afro Samurai soundtrack, or he did, you know, some joints with Big L. As he got older, the intricacies of his wordplay became more complex.
And I'm gonna tell if any old school rappers are listening, actually that's the way thing to go. If actually, you know, Rakim and then the rest of them, Big Daddy Kane, if they enter into the animation world, also hook up with black animators, illustrators, you know, like Anthony Piper, or you got all these people, Marcus Williams, all these people out there, that will actually be a dope ass fusion, and that is something that even the young heads, they'll be reintroduced to you, and they will enjoy it, you know.
Yeah, definitely cats like Anthony Piper. What's up, homie out there? We know you out there, and you know, look what Aaron Magruder was doing, and honestly, look what MF Doom does.
MF Doom to me.
Yeah, we gotta talk about him. We're gonna talk about him
because that's, you know, that dude there is fire.
We're gonna break his shit down like a lowrider. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, folks, that was our very lengthy discussion on LL Cool J and why we feel he is extremely underrated.
The forgotten god of hip-hop.
Yes, the forgotten god of hip-hop. Leave your comments below. Tell us what are some of your favorite albums and what do you think about the discussion. This is your boy Prince.
And this is your girl Sincere.
We are out. Peace.